October, so we'll wander down with Bertie and see what's what. My goodness, look what's happened to the grass, Miscanthus cosmopolitan. It seems to have rather fallen apart. I think we've had such sort of weather. Since it's flowered, it started sort of leaning, and now it's really gone into one massive sort of clump. I don't know what we can do about it. We'll have to see what to do in the winter. It'll need to be chopped back considerably. But I mean, some of these flowering stalks are really fantastically tall. I mean, 6-7 feet, a couple of meters and a bit. But what a magnificent grass. In spite of it all, in the sun, the flower spikes sort of silver. It's rather elbowing this poor old heart-leafed fuchsia out of the way. But anyway, I'm going to have to tackle it in the winter. It has become enormous. Sentry duty for squirrels. On guard, you see. Terrifying. Terrifying. Standing tall, and thanks to the moisture and the warmth we've been having, in spite of it being October, is my favourite Canna. Canna iridiflora, or the iris-flowered Canna. Very pink, if you like pink. It's now known as Canna amanii because it's considered a hybrid. This has got enormous. This is Neolithia sericea, and it is absolutely covered in flowers, which is a strange time of year to flower, but there we are. Close-up look at the flowers. There's a sort of faint scent to them, but they are funny little things. Backed by the abutilon is this rather weird Chinese shrub with its dependent or hanging catkins. They seem to have only very few sort of flowers. Here's a group which has a few more flowers than normal. They soon disappear, the blue bits, to leave these rather white, off-white catkins, like so many caterpillars hanging. Not a thing of great beauty. Quite an unusual shrub, though, from China, with a very unusual sounding name, Rostrinucula dependens. There we are. Rostrinucula dependens. Fashionable at one time, about 3 or 4 years ago. They were about all over the place as the great new thing. Now, behind one bit of the Rostrinucula and the amazing Abutilon Marion, which has been flowering and flowering and flowering ever since, well, April, I would say. I've noticed that the variegated Hoheria from New Zealand is now flowering. Gives an opportunity for the insects to have a last-minute meal of nectar. Its variegations are really quite bright, certainly in the summer. And the little flowers aren't all that conspicuous on the variegated leaves, but regrettably, on the leaves that have reverted to green, they're much more prolific. However, that will need to be removed, that little branch, because the whole point is the variegation. This is Hoheria purpulnea, variegated form. Not everybody's cup of tea, but I love it, so there we are. Right, going past the, and I can't help but thinking of the word blousy, the unapologetically blousy hibiscus. We're going to have a look over here. Lurking behind the glossy leaves of this beautiful Hebe halcyona are the bright red bracts of Fascicularia and its amazing blue, almost artificial looking flowers in the center. Let's have a look at the other one. It looks even bluer to me. Isn't that amazing? I must say, I do find it intriguing. As you see, the pale blue flowers open up from the outside towards the inside with their little yellow stamens. Really intriguing. In Chile, where this comes from, there is another enormous plant called a puya, which eventually flowers. And this has also got this rather strange sort of angular flower with blue with the yellow center. If anybody's watching in a sort of Mediterranean climate, you can have a jolly good laugh at my olive tree, which of course flowered fantastically this year, but has that translated into olives? Well, not so as you'd notice. These tiny, tiny developing fruits are never going to get anywhere. And I can't really see the martini beckoning with these. No. I mean, one or two green ones, but honestly, oh well, it's such a lovely colour as a tree. Beautiful grey leaves. At the end of this walkway, I've just been continuing to clean up the branches of this remarkable lilac from China, which has a wonderful sinuous bark, which is sort of peeling as well. And that's its main attraction, I would say, because the flowers are rather white and slightly boring, lilac-y type flowers, but this is great. Syringa pekingensis, it's called. I think Bertie approves as well. The amazing blue keratostigma shrub is still in full flower, and next to it, coming out, is a shrub from China and Nepal called Cahunia, spelt Cahunia, coccinea. This is a form with very orange flowers, almost on fire if you got the sun on them, called vestita. Greyish leaf, looking a bit like a buddleia, erupting into these amazing red flowers. This was overgrowing the path, so I cut it almost down to the ground 2 years ago, and now it's recovered and coming back for more. The new leaves are a lovely grey colour and a bit sort of furry. Beautiful. And the flowers, I think, bear close inspection. As you can see, each individual flower is sort of two-tone. They've got a red surround and a yellow throat. The whole thing has a kind of scarlet look to it, as we've seen. Here's a focus of colour in the autumn border. My last of the focus to flower. One I don't know the name of, but it looks a bit like a slightly smaller version of Nyphophia ruperi, which we saw previously. It has that same sort of shape. And beside it, doing its stuff, is the wild dahlia from Mexico, collected by a friend of mine and grown from seed. Dahlia coccinea, which means the scarlet dahlia. Well, there we are. Certainly a description. A wonderful plant has been here for years. There's the old tree of the Chinese dogwood, Cornus capitata, and its strawberry-like fruits are colouring up nicely, and they can be very decorative on the tree. Attractive though they are, funnily enough, the birds seem to leave them alone. They are edible, and I've tasted one. It's terribly insipid. But they stay on the tree and then drop to the ground where they're untouched. And I'll leave you with my wife's sculpture of our daughter contemplating on the swing